Microsoft Azure stack. AZ204 is targeted for developing cloud-based, Azure-based solutions. And this is a part of our series of webinars, which we have been focusing on Azure. And the presenter for today, let me welcome Mr. Saket, a very well-known trainer, speaker, and mentor on Azure. He's a very preferred trainer for a lot of corporates and been delivering training, workshop, seminar from last more than 15 years now. So let us welcome Saket. And I would also like to welcome the audience, which is from a diverse domain. I mean, there are people from telecom, there are people from consulting and digital transformation industries. Now, this is a 1.5 hour kind of webinar, short webinar, which will be focusing on discussions, Q&As. So the format is that trainer would be starting and, we have kept almost 15 minutes for the Q&A towards the end of the session. But in case there are queries in between, we would like to keep it interactive. People can post their queries on the chat. So raise hands and, ask their queries in between the session. So Saket, over to you without wasting much time. Please take it ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Navjot. And thanks for introducing me as well. So good morning, everybody. I hope I am loud and clear.
Yes, Saket, you are.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen, confirm once it is visible.
Yep.
Thanks for confirming. Okay, so I hope you have already received and gone through the agenda for this session. Not going to be a very technical kind of session this time. It's going to be more on how I can prepare for AZ204 certification and what all options I have for the preparation, what all things are or what all skills are actually measured on attempting this certification and so on. So let's move on quickly to the agenda. This is the agenda we have in case if you have missed going through the same. Here we are going to see the overview of AZ204 certification, what exactly it is, what all things it targets, the topics that are covered in the exam, the format of the exam, tips on how to register for the exam, understanding the exam objectives. So ultimately, exact objectives, what all have been set by Microsoft. Understand the weightage given to each objective, which is important aspect so that accordingly we can prepare. And then resources available to learn about each of the objective set by AZ204. Then followed by some tips and strategies for preparing for AZ204 certification, which includes tips on how to study for the exam, how to approach each section of the exam, best resources available for the study for each of the section, and followed by the most useful books, blogs, and online resources that are available for studying, apart from the offline resources, of course. Like we also do some trainings on the exam preparation path. So we actually run the course which makes you prepare for AZ204, which is a 5-day program actually. So for more details, you can get in touch with Navjot and team, and you can proceed with that. So the next section that we'll be talking about is something on mock exams and practice tests. I'll not use the term called as exam dumps or something similar to that. It is more logical if we go for using whatever resources available in this category as mock exams only, without worrying about whether it is the same set of questions I'm going to receive in the actual exam, and rather focusing on the format, rather focusing on exactly how do I approach for solving those questions and so on. That's where the limitation of mock exam should be kept all the time, so that there are high chances that you not only clear the exam, but also gain the knowledge apart from just clearing the exam by having some idea on the theoretical aspects of it, because that is more important. Because many a times I've received the feedback from the senior management people complaining that people probably get certified but don't know anything actually with respect to the hands-on. They probably have some theoretical idea, but again that fades away over the time once there is substantial amount of time going in between you getting certified and actually delivering some solutions based on that certification. So many top management people think that the certifications are of no use. I am of the other perspective, where I actually say that it's not uh, something like that it is unuseful or something. It is actually useful, provided if it is done in genuine manner, where you are actually preparing by practicing each and every aspect of the exam, each and every skill that is measured within the exam. So by practicing, by getting the hands-on knowledge, probably we have clear idea of exactly what the platform is, what all the services are, how to work with them, how to use them, how to put them together to make a proper cloud-based solution with the help of Azure, and which not only allows you to clear the exam, but again, remember the concepts for a long time. So the limit of the mock exam should be just like one final attempt, one final net practice before the exam. Maybe 2 or 3 times you can attempt the same. In case if you find that the first attempt is not giving me satisfactory results, then you can identify the gaps based on the result of the first mock exam, and then you can once again prepare and probably reattempt. And once you feel confident that, okay, I am able to solve the mock exams properly and scoring as per expectations, you are actually somewhere ready to attempt the actual exam as well. And then some tips on the exam day related activities. So let's start. First section that we have here is overview of AZ204 certification. Some of you might be already knowing what AZ204 certification is, because if you see the exact name for AZ204 certification is Developing Solutions for Microsoft Azure, whereas AZ204 is just the exam code, correct? Developing
Yes.
solutions for Microsoft Azure. What do you understand by this? What all things it must be targeting? Is it something to do with the administration? Is it something to do with infra management, IT infra management? Is it something to do with DevOps? Is it something to do with uh, virtual resources management? Is it something to do with the cloud management?
Yes, it's for the cloud and all the things which you say, it's for that.
Uh, in contrary to that, I would say it's not about managing anything. It's more about developing the solutions. So the
Yes.
AZ204 certification exam is something which targets the usage of whatever the resources that you have on Azure, rather than how do you set up them. Make sense? So for example, if I talk about storage services, it's not about actually how do you set up the storage service. It's more about how do you consume the storage service within your application. Similarly, app service, how do you develop the app service based deployment? It's not about how do you actually deploy. It's not about how do you prepare the app service environment. If I go for API apps, it's more about developing the APIs and putting them on cloud. So whatever the configuration that is required as a developer that you should be doing, that is something which is going to be measured over here. So even if you talk about Azure SQL, it's all about using the SQL Server features, not about how do I set up Azure SQL, how do I make it secure and all. It will be more about how do I make my own application artifacts, which might include the code, which might include the database, which might include anything that I am developing secure. Make sense? Then
Yes.
monitoring and managing my own deployment, not something at the infra level. So if you're looking for the infra level things, if you're looking for management level things, in that case, this exam is not for you. This is more for developers. For infra management and for the cloud management, all those deployment related things, setting up the IT infra and all, that comes under another certification called as AZ-104, which is titled
Okay.
as uh, Azure Infrastructure Solutions, developing Azure Infrastructure Solution, or developing infrastructure solutions for Microsoft Azure. Got it? So clear cut difference is there that Microsoft itself has placed over here so that people can go with very, very targeted mindset over here. Everyone need not attempt every exam. You have to attempt the exam. You have to appear for the exam that suits your profile, that suits your background. If you have been in IT infra management for a while, probably AZ-104 is more for you. Whereas if you are you have been on the development side, AZ-204 is something for you. So there are two aspects of it. Probably you are already working on Azure and then attempting the certification just to earn the credential, or else you are just beginning with Azure development, and at the beginning itself you want to get certified so that you can utilize the knowledge which you get while preparing the certification exam or preparing for the certification exam. You can leverage that in your day-to-day work also. So two different aspects are there. Whatever suits your need, whatever suits your profile, probably you can pick any of the pathway. Right. So as I said, the certification is intended for developers who have experience in programming languages. I will not take any name over here because most of the programming languages and platforms are already being supported by Azure. Okay. So apart from programming languages, most of the programming languages, frameworks, platforms come with the support of the software development kits or SDKs also to make your life easier. Instead of working at the low level by calling some APIs, probably SDK provide you the easy access. More uh, encapsulated solutions are there that makes your life much more easier. With little bit of configuration, you can get more things done. So Azure SDKs is the SDK which is provided by Microsoft to access and use most of the Azure services in an easy manner. Without getting into the details, how do I connect? How do I call the APIs and so on? It is the SDK which will take most of the pain. It has been already coded for that, and it has been already tried and tested as well. Still, if you have a requirement which says that no, the SDK should not be used for whatever reasons, you have to use the APIs only. Azure is open to provide you the access with the help of Azure APIs also. And most of the APIs are now the RESTful APIs only. So even if some of the programming language or framework or platform doesn't have the support for Azure SDK or doesn't have any SDK of its own, in that case also you can still make use of Azure services with the help of low-level API calls, with the help of RESTful APIs only. Then there are some tools and different Azure services which are available. So that summarizes it all. Developers who are looking to leverage from all these things, basically, this certification is for those developers. Is that clear? Any questions on this slide?
No, Saket,
Okay,
it's clear.
let's move ahead then.
Saket, we have a query from someone on chat.
Yeah,
So the question is it helpful for DevOps?
Answer is yes, because ultimately DevOps has got roots in development activities itself. Some of the DevOps topics are covered in this exam as well, which are supposed to be known by a common developer also. And later on, there is a dedicated certification track for Azure DevOps also, which is AZ300 series. So I believe 300 and 301 is the exam code for that. But before attempting those exams, it will be recommended for you to go through this exam, because many of the topics in Azure DevOps exam also will be depending on whatever the things you are doing here. DevOps includes some topics from infrastructure solutions as well. So AZ 104, 204, both combined are basically going to be covered to a 50% of the topics of Azure DevOps. The rest of the 50% will be more on the DevOps side itself, the tool. I hope that is clear.
We hope that answers the question. Sure. Thank you. Let's move ahead, Saket, please.
Yeah. So the topics that are covered in the exam are categorized mainly in 6 parts. Developing Azure compute solutions. Compute is somewhat based on the infrastructure as a service offering, little bit of infra things. But again, this is not about setting up the infra. It's more about using the infra features over here, which includes how do I deploy my applications to Azure VMs? How do I deploy my applications which are containerized onto Azure? So whether it is Azure container instances that I use, Azure container registry that I use, Azure Kubernetes services or AKS I use, that all come under compute solutions. Even up to certain extent, Azure app services also are built on compute platforms only. So that also comes under this category, which automatically brings in Azure Function Apps, Azure Logic Apps also over here in this category. Next is Azure Storage, which talks about the data storage services. So typically, it all starts with Azure Storage Service, which itself has got 4 subsets. That is blob storage, queue storage, table storage, which is key value pair, NoSQL kind of storage only, and then file storage. Beside that, one of the big data storage also has been added of late, couple of years back. That is called as Azure Data Lake Storage, which is built on the top of blob storage only. Then beside the storage, core storage services, we do have the multi-model NoSQL database storage also, which is marketed by Microsoft as Cosmos DB, which supports multiple types of NoSQL databases under the single umbrella, like NoSQL API from Microsoft. Formerly, it used to be called as SQL API. And even before that, it used to be called as Document DB. So the recent rename has made it available with the name NoSQL storage or NoSQL API. Then we have MongoDB for Azure. Then we have Gremlin. Then we have Cassandra. These are some of the services or some of the type of NoSQL storages which are available under Cosmos DB. And that's why it is called as multi-model database storage, NoSQL database storage precisely. Then we have the support for relational databases also, which includes, of course, SQL Server being their own product. That will be the first to come into this. Beside SQL Server, we do have support for MySQL, PostgreSQL also under relational database category. And this list is just growing. Most likely in future, we will also see Oracle being onboarded to Azure as a platform as a service offering. And when I'm talking about storage services, I'm actually talking about the platform as a service based storage offering only. If you find that your choice of storage is not available in this category, you can always create a virtual machine and you can set up your storage inside that the way you want. So once again, you will be going back to compute solutions in that case. The next skill which is measured over here is Azure security. So this talks about the application level user authentication and authorization, then key management services, API management, which is mainly for the web services and RESTful services. Then overall, how do I deliver the secure cloud solutions, which also talks about identity and access management, and then managed identities and all. So everything that is related to the security basically comes under implement Azure security. Any service which has been built to provide the security is measured under this skill only. Next is another important aspect of your entire development cycle. You develop the application, you deploy the application. Is that it? After deploying, you have to continuously monitor the performance of your application. When I say performance, it's not only about speed, it is overall performance. Whether it's working, it's not working, it's healthy, it's unhealthy. There are few areas which have some gaps and failing, which needs to be troubleshooted, right? Continuously, you have to do this monitoring. For which probably you do some kind of logging as well. And how do you logging? How do you do the logging? That depends on which technology platform you're building your application in. You might be using different services, third-party services also for logging. There are multiple libraries available to provide you the logger service. Likewise, Azure also has got its native logger service provided by the name Azure App Insights, which help you precisely monitoring your huge enterprise applications also without any problem, without any delays, without any failures, with the help of a very, very scalable platform behind it, because the Azure App Insight service itself has been built on the top of cloud, where the cloud itself is a highly scalable platform. And that's why it is so much popular, right? So not only monitoring, this supports you with troubleshooting. This supports you with preparing the reports about how healthy your application is working. And probably with the help of those reports, you can actually plan the optimization of your solutions. So there is a Azure Optimizer tool also available, which keeps on giving you notifications about the optimization that needs to be done within your solutions. So that will be some sort of advisory that will be coming to you, whether following that or not, that is your call. Whether you want their recommendations to be applied directly, they provide you the interface for that. If you want to do it manually, that's also fine. But the point is, there are optimizer services which also keeps on running. There are tools associated with them which you can always use. So this fourth skill is basically entirely dedicated to monitoring, troubleshooting, and optimization of Azure solutions. The next fifth service or fifth category is connecting to and consuming Azure services and third-party services. Precisely, I'll just put it in one simple word called as integration services. Something like in the past, we used to have Bistock server. These services of Azure now actually replace Bistock server entirely. So we do have something called as service bus. We do have something called as logic apps. We do have something called as API management. We do have event hub. We do have IoT hub. with the help of which you can provide the integration between heterogeneous applications and third-party services also. Your entire solution need not be built using the same technology platform or same technology stack at all. This further enhances the chances of your application being built on microservices architecture as well. So by that, you can understand that Azure is ready for microservices also. You don't need to do anything special. It's already ready. It's already configured. You just need to leverage the services which are available. The sixth category is, as I said before also, there is a portion, small portion of Azure DevOps, 5 to 10% weightage on that, uh, which actually is the portion that a typical developer should be aware of. Like, how do I use source control? How do I check in my code? How do I check out code? What is continuous integration and continuous delivery? At least the conceptual portion I should be aware of. What is dependency management? So these are all the kind of topics which are available in the sixth category, or which are measured under this sixth category. Okay, so your exam is divided into these 6 portions, and the scoring will be done on each section, and then the aggregated score will be published. Is that clear to all?
Yes.
Next question is, what is the format of the exam? Anybody knows what is the format of the exam, how it is conducted? So starting with the first point, exam type. Previously, we had only one option: go to the exam center, register for the exam, book your slot, pay the fees there itself, and then manually or physically you have to be there in the exam center to appear for the exam using their machines. Basically, you attempt it. So that option is still there, but since COVID, basically there is another mode that has been enabled now by the testing agencies or testing partners of Microsoft. I mean, exam partners of Microsoft, where they have come up with the unique idea of proctored online examinations also. So you can actually attempt the exam from the comfort of your home as well, or wherever you are. It could be home, it could be office. You just need a private space, well lit. I mean, enough light should be there. There should be a good quality camera. There should be a good quality microphone. And basically, proctored means it will be continuously being invigilated by someone with the help of your microphone and camera itself, so that they keep track of that no malpractice is being followed to clear the exam. I mean, cheating in simple terms. Okay, so that the comfort is that you can actually do it from the home or office itself, and you can save a lot of time in traveling from your place to the exam center. Plus, the availability of slots is high on online mode compared to that of the exam centers, because exam centers will have limited number of seats. Correct? Whereas online exam will be on simulated virtual platform. So you don't need the physical seats or physical machines. You have your own machine, which is going to be used for attempting the exam. Make sense? I hope that first point is clear.
Yes.
Exam duration should be clear. It is 150 minutes fixed. Question format is MCQ based. Then some of the questions might be multiple answers based also. though the MCQ format is there, but there could be more than one answers correct. Sometimes it also happens that all the answers seem to be correct, but it might be mentioned precisely that choose 3 or choose 2 out of 4 or 5 options that are available. So what you have to select there is the most relevant answer. Even if all are correct, there could be few of them which are most relevant. Understood? Questions will always be scenario based. So you will be given a kind of a case study, some scenario. Okay, some situation based on which there will be a question, and based on which there will be some options which you have to select. There will be a set of interactive questions also. Interactive questions means what? Like suppose I want to create a storage account. How do I create a storage account? There are some 6-7 steps involved. So the steps will be there jumbled up. You just need to arrange them in the correct sequence with drag and drop features that will be enabled for that question. So that will be more interactive questions. In future, there will be simulated questions also where there will be a virtual portal being presented to you as the part of the question itself. And within that, you have to actually do what you would be doing in reality on the actual Azure portal so that they can track whatever actions you did, what are the sequences you followed, what are the steps you followed are actually correct or not. But that's a future thing. As of now, the interactive questions are drag and drop based only. I hope that is also clear. So one question I have here. What is difference between multiple choice and multiple answer? Multiple choice means where you have more than one options available, but only one of them can be selected as correct. Multiple answer means there are more than one answers. So you have to take 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or maybe more options out of the available ones. Scenario based should be clear. It's mini case study, mini version of some situation, right? And based on the understanding of which you have to understand the question itself, and then you have to attempt the answer. And interactive questions also, I hope you understand. Right? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, I assume that
Saket,
it's understood. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. How many questions are there to complete in 150 minutes?
Number of questions are not fixed. Depending on the complexity of questions, the number of questions may vary, but on an average, you get questions between 30 to 45 questions each time on an average.
Okay.
So if more complex, more lengthy questions are there, there will be less number of questions. If there are more simpler questions, there will be more number of questions. But
Oh,
average range is 30 to 45. That's what I have seen.
okay. Thank you.
It may be 50 also at times, but that doesn't come under the average. Understood?
Yeah. Thank you.
Total available marks are 1000, out of which you have to score a minimum of 700 to clear the exam. 699 means you have not cleared. 700 or more till 1000, you clear the exam. It's not mandatory to clear each and every skill 100% or 70%. Overall, 70% you have to score. Is that clear?
Saket, we have negative marking here.
We do have.
Okay.
It's not very aggressive, but yes, we do have some penalties basically are applicable if you answer a question incorrectly. So the idea would be attempt only that question where you are very, very sure that, okay, this is the answer. If any question where you have a doubt, leave it. Make sense? That way you will get 0 instead of minus few marks, right? So you'll still be in positive that way.
Correct.
Yeah. So how do we register for the exam? First thing is you need to have a Microsoft ID, which can be any ID now. There is a simple process which you can follow on Microsoft's any of the website. It could be Microsoft.com, it could be MSDN, it could be Live, it could be Outlook, it could be Hotmail. All of them allow you to, even Azure portal also, all of them allow you to use any of your email ID as Microsoft ID now. Once that ID is created, you have to build a Microsoft certification profile by going to this link. Navjot, if you're there, please ping this link into the chat box also. It will be useful for the participants.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, so once you visit this link, you will have your certification profile where you can set up what name you want to be used within the certificate and all. Even this is the profile from where you can order your physical certificates. These days, physical certificates are not being issued by default. You have to order the certificates. Once you order, it basically is couriered to you at a nominal fees. Next thing that you would be doing is you have to choose the exam delivery method. So there are two choices, I said. What are they? One is you can attempt the exam at an examination center, right? On this link itself, you will be able to locate the nearest exam center also for you. So there are multiple providers. Earlier, there used to be only Prometric, but now Prometric itself is out of the list of Microsoft's partners for exams. There are others who have been providing the testing center services to Microsoft these days. But they are not limited to Microsoft. They do the testing. I mean, they conduct the exams for the other certification providers also. So you can always just go to this link and check what is the nearest exam center and book your seat there. That also can be done online. If you want, you can actually physically visit that center and get your seat booked. Okay. If you choose to go for the online proctored examination, it is just a simple process. You need to book the slot when you want to attempt at what time. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes earlier than the scheduled time, you have to log in. You have to set up everything. Recommended is 30 minutes earlier you do that so that they can check all the environment. They make you download a tool also on your machine from where you will be attempting the exam, with the help of which they just scan your machine to see if there is any software that can assist you during the exam is installed on that machine or not. So if any wrongdoing is found, basically the exam is not either allowed to you, or even if you have attempted it somehow, the results are basically not declared or not provided to you. Certification is not allotted to you, in simple words. Okay. So in both cases, you have to schedule the exam. That is the next step. Then you have to pay for the exam. In both cases, you can pay online. In case of you visiting the exam center physically, you have the option of paying it there at the exam center also. Then you have to start preparing for the exam. This is something where we go for final preparation. It's not like that we register and pay totally non-prepared. Doesn't make sense, right? We probably prepare for the exam first in detail, then we book the seat or slot, and then we do the final preparation, and then we take the exam. So once I start feeling confident that, okay, I have enough knowledge to crack this exam, probably I'll book the date next week or maybe 3 days later, 4 days later, as per my convenience. During that gap or the number of days between I book the exam slot and the actual exams date itself, I'll just keep on attempting some mock exams, some kind of net practice I'll do to see where I am, how actually prepared I am. And then that helps me go for the final shot so that on the exam day, it becomes easy for me. So that's what the 6th point is. Prepare for the exam means final net practice. Then actually attempt the exam, and then finally you receive your results. The result is basically something which appears immediately the moment you submit the exam. It takes hardly 5 to 10 minutes to get the analysis done and prepare the report. If you are doing it online, in that case, you get the online report itself, either via mail or on screen or both. If you go to the exam center, they will give you the printout as well for the same. Any questions on this slide?
Is it any demo practice session or exam module?
We do have. So in the upcoming slides, we will see information on that as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's understand the exam objectives. Definitely the objectives are around the categories that we saw, which are actually going to be measured for the different skills, right? So this is a summary of what we saw earlier. The first category was developing Azure compute solutions, followed by developing for Azure storage, followed by implementing Azure security, followed by monitoring, troubleshooting, and optimizing Azure solutions, followed by connecting to and consume Azure services and third-party services. And then the last was implementing Azure DevOps in the development process from the developer's point of view, right? So these are the main objectives. And practically the objective for us would be to crack this exam to earn the certification which builds our credentials. And if we earn it properly, with all the skills required, with all the knowledge required, with hands-on practice and all, this actually proves a lot later on, right? The slide seems to be repeated, isn't it? Same pointers we saw on the previous slide. The only difference now you see here is the weightage for each of the skill category, which is the maximum skill category being tested over here for a candidate. First one, Azure Compute Solutions, right? More on the development side, followed by security. These are the two most important skills. Then comes the storage and monitoring, troubleshooting, and optimization. Third-party services integration also is pretty important one. So there again, you can see 25 to 30%. And then DevOps is a small percentage, it's usually 5% only. I've put 5 to 10% because sometimes one question here and there makes the weightage changed. So usually it is 5% only. So minimal impact of Azure DevOps topics is there on the certification. So even if you don't have the idea of DevOps, that's okay. But these days, I believe every developer has got some hands on Azure DevOps or any other DevOps tool, right? The source control, everyone is aware of the continuous integration and continuous delivery, CI/CD, almost everyone is aware of. Yes or no? So those are the skills which are measured here. So I hope the weightage is also clear. Any questions on this?
No, Saket.
Okay. What all resources are available to learn about each objective? First, the official Microsoft learning paths are available. So there is a website called as learn.microsoft.com where you can go ahead and go through multiple tutorials that they have for each of the skill that is required or that is being measured within this certification. Beside that, they do provide some sandbox environment also, so that without subscription also you can practice most of the things. They do provide some hands-on labs and exercises which you can easily practice. Beside that, they do have the Microsoft official curriculum, a proper course that Microsoft itself runs along with their partners to make you prepared for Azure 204. That is what given the code as AZ204T00A, developing solutions for Microsoft Azure. This is the Microsoft official curriculum. If you buy this course, you get the courseware handbook, deck of slides, some practice hands-on labs or exercises, and $100 of free credit for a period of 30 days in your Azure account. So basically, multiple things packaged together, which allows you to get your hands dirty on Microsoft Azure by using the resources that are being provided along with this course. You can actually get yourself prepared for the exam because most of the content is aligned towards the certification. It becomes easy for you also to develop a mindset to solve the certification exam. We also do run this course at our end. Navjot can throw some light on that. Right, Navjot?
Oh yes, this AZ204 we have been offering as a preparatory course. It is a 24 hours course. And I believe the Microsoft suggests it to be a 40 hours, but we can cover in 24 hours if the audience is experienced developers. So we have delivered this for multiple clients. Quite a good success rate.
Almost 100% people have cleared the exams after attempting or after attending our course.
Correct.
So,
That's true.
yeah. So some of them might not have cleared it in first attempt, but second attempt they have cleared it. So ultimately the end result is 100%. Right? Skill wise they were equipped, but probably people who didn't clear the exam in first attempt may not have the mental preparedness, because usually it is always a fear if you are attempting any certification exam for the first time in your life, because you don't know exactly how the exam is going to be there, what kind of questions will come. So out of fear also, sometimes we don't attempt some questions, or we just end up thinking more than attempting. But then the second attempt becomes easy with that.
Yeah, so it is always helpful to focus on the Q&As because we have seen practitioners who have been working on Azure, even they fail in the first attempt because the questions are very tricky. So it is
Correct.
always advisable that even if you attend any training, so there has to be kind of self-study that focuses on, like Saket said, some mock tests which are like freely available on the internet. Even Microsoft on their website, they keep on adding a lot of mock tests on all the examinations. So that is always advisable.
Correct. So they help us develop our mindset to attempt the exam, where we can see exactly what kind of questions will be there, what will be the pattern, right? Then there comes Microsoft documentation. Official Azure documentation is there, which further is categorized into specific type of services, which is also called as Azure documentation. One is generalized documentation, one is very, very service specific, feature specific documentation, which is then again linked to Microsoft Learning. Okay. And then there are practice tests being made available by multiple service providers, including Microsoft, where Microsoft practice tests are available for free, no cost. If you are looking for more complexity, there are pro versions also available, which might cost a little bit because those are not usually developed by Microsoft. They are developed by their partners. So that's where the cost comes in. Another thing is, if you are buying Microsoft official curriculum, all these practice tests being made available by Microsoft via their platform will be always free to you. You don't need to pay additional in case if you have bought the MOC, Microsoft official curriculum. I hope that is clear.
Is it any validity for this or is lifetime free?
Is it about the exam or is it about the resources?
The both.
Yeah, so there are two things. The course, the resources will be lifetime free, available to you. Anytime you can log in, download, right? With respect to exam, basically because the technology platform keeps on changing. There are new features which keeps on getting added. Some old features, obsolete features keep on going away. I mean, being removed, right? So that's why the exams keep on retiring and new version is released. Like AZ 204 was not always 204. It started with 201. 204 is the fourth version of that 201 only, where 201 was the first version. Understood? So the credential will be there with you for lifetime, which says that you have cleared 204 in so and so year, but its effectiveness will reduce with time once it retires. There is no specific timeline. It depends on how many substantial number of changes have been made into the platform, first of all, which effectively forces the certification also to get updated. Make sense? You should be certified on current skills, not old skills, right? That's why they retire some old exams and come up with the new ones. Just like the software. Version 2 replaces version 1. Why? Why there is a need? Because the requirement itself gets changed over time, right?
And more so, Saket, this technology itself, this Azure itself keep on updating very, very rapidly. You know, a lot of
Absolutely.
new features.
Absolutely. So after adopting Agile, Microsoft is bringing in changes almost in every 21 days, which is a typical cycle for Agile, right? Agile sprint. Let's move on. Yeah, go ahead.
Where can we find the sandbox environment to practice?
So once you go to learn.microsoft.com and choose your topic on Azure, wherever the topic requires you to log in into the Azure portal and practice something over there, there itself you will get the link to activate the Azure sandbox. It's not for all the services. For some crucial services which cannot be learned without doing hands-on practice, you will find the sandbox environment link over there. Activate sandbox, that would be the title. It would be link or a button. Depends. They keep on changing the UI. Understood?
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, you can always use your own subscription, which could be a paid one, which could be a corporate one, which could be something like Visual Studio benefit for employees. If your organization has a tie-up with Microsoft, They must be providing you that $150 of credit per month for Azure, which you have to claim with a one-time process once. After that, it's always there with you. Then there could be a free trial also that you can create, which will require a credit card for your authentication. I mean, user identity validation and all. So multiple options you have. There is no compulsion that the sandbox only has to be used. Somehow, if sandbox is not working, maybe your account has been suspended to use the sandbox for whatever reason. That will not stop you from practicing, right? There are other ways. You can have MOC along with which you get 30 days of usage of $100, which also can be one of the option, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the tips and strategies for preparing for this certification. Common things only, I'll not talk anything new or I'll not bring in some rocket science over here. For any exam, whatever the basic strategies that are applicable here as well. It starts with reviewing the exam objectives. What are the skills that I'll be tested on, right? Because that is important so that I can prepare accordingly. Utilize the official Microsoft Learning resources first. That should be the first choice all the time. And then to get more insight into it, probably you can attend some courses, maybe online, maybe offline. Online, again, LinkedIn Learning is there. Then Udemy is there, Coursera is there. Then there are multiple such platforms, right? Simply Learn is there. Then if you are looking for personal touch, organizations like ours basically are conducting the courses on regular basis as we already discussed. Navjot already highlighted that. Okay, so you have all the options available. Point is you have to utilize whatever the options that you have before you actually make your mind to go for attempting the exam. Okay, then lots of practice with hands-on being the focus should be there. Because if you don't do the hands-on, probably you will be able to clear the certification with age-old ways, like how we used to clear our history exams in the schools, right? Without understanding exactly what it is, just ratta marlo type. Just joking. The thing is, it doesn't work that way because it's more of a technology thing, right? So technology thing always needs to be learned with lots of hands-on practice. It doesn't give you some knowledge or some insight without doing any hands-on. Just learning by heart is not enough for this. You might be able to crack the exam, as I said, but the long-term credibility of this exam will not be there anymore. Yes, I hope everyone agrees on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Complete relevant online courses and tutorials, at least the ones which are available for free, right? If you are planning to attend some offline course like what we are offering, it's fine. But before you actually go for attending the course, if you do some pre-practice, if you complete the available courses which are available for free, you go through all the tutorials, you do some hands-on of your own, you can be more focused, you can be more clear on what you are looking to achieve from the training which you are going to attend. Because the training would be lasting for few hours only. As Navjot said, it could be anything between 24 hours to 40 hours. In some cases, if absolute fresher is looking to attend this training, it can be more than 40 hours also. It depends on the experience, right? But then if you are having some pre-practice done, you can come up with very, very precise, focused questions. Do you agree? You probably would know your weaknesses by then. So you can ask the trainer to actually guide you with those weaknesses in addition to whatever is being covered during the training. Yes or no? I assume yes. Okay, so next level would be to explore the sample questions and practice tests, whatever available. There are free ones, there are paid ones. Always look for the quality sample questions and practice tests. Fake questions and fake tests will not help you. Along with that, always do engage in some actual real life hands-on projects. If you are getting that uh, along with your job itself, I mean, as your job profile itself, that's awesome. If not, you can always pick up some mock projects, some dummy projects, or some proof of concept projects. And with that, you can actually get some hands deeply into the technology platform offered by Azure. Also, it is recommended for you to join some study groups or forums where you can have some discussion sessions as well. Some of the doubts can be easily cleared within these groups and forums. With social media, basically, it's much more easier now. The forum need not be a formal forum, right? Forum can be an informal chat also. Usually we create the groups, right, with the common intention, common interests. So something like that can be done for joint study as well. Then review the documentation, white papers, blogs, whatever is available. Time management is going to be important. You have to dedicate your time that every day, half an hour or 1 hour, I'm going to dedicate for basically the preparation of AZ204 certification. And it has to be done on regular basis. Daily 1 hour, if you have said, it has to be daily 1 hour. Doesn't matter whether you are doing it in morning or afternoon or evening, which time of the day, whenever you get time. Even it need not be 1 hour at a stretch all the times. Sometimes it may not be possible. It may not be feasible. So you can break it down into 15 minutes, 4 sessions of 15 minutes each, or maybe mix and match like 30 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 15 minutes or whatever, right? Whatever you do in that duration has to be a complete activity. So you can break down your entire set of tasks also accordingly, right? And then review and reinforce your weak areas that you have to keep on practicing again and again on repetitive basis. Typical agile manner, right? Repetition based model. So next section is how to approach each section of the exam. So first section, as we discussed, is develop Azure Compute Solutions. What all things I need to focus on? So first understand the different compute options in Azure, such as virtual machines, anything related to virtual machines. So there are different options like I can deploy independent virtual machines. I can deploy scale sets. I can deploy availability sets. I can deploy virtual machines in availability zones. Then the containerized environments. So Azure Kubernetes service will be there. And the basics of containerization. So again, Azure container instances and container registry, that also will be the point of focus. And then how exactly to deploy, configure, and manage these resources effectively. So focus on that. Then study the Azure App Service, its various features. How do you create web apps? You can practice that. How you configure the app for general settings, then for authentication, authorization, and then how do you enable the monitoring and diagnostics for the app service. Enable is not just about enabling, it is how to enable and how to disable, because you may not require diagnostics going on all the time, always. Then gain familiarity with Azure functions, logic apps, and how to create, deploy, and integrate them into your solutions. Right? And definitely the related things like precisely if I go with Azure Functions, there is a concept of input binding, output binding. What is the use? How do I configure them? How to effectively use them? I have to focus on that. So this is the first skill category. Second one was storage services. So again, it has been divided, right? The core Azure storage services, which talks about blobs, files, queue storage, table storage, and data lake storage. So how do I actually set up them? How do I create them? How do I manage them? How do I work with them programmatically? How do I integrate with them with my application? Do it practically with hands-on, along with some case study. Same is the case with Cosmos DB. I recommend you to try out at least 3 APIs out of the available 5-6 APIs that Cosmos DB brings in, like NoSQL API, MongoDB API, Gremlin, Cassandra, and Premium Table also is there. So at least 3 of them you should be practicing. Okay. Explore Azure SQL database and Azure database for PostgreSQL and MySQL. So 3 RDBMS systems which are available on PaaS. It's about them. So how do I create database? How do I create tables? And how do I establish relations? How do I create the columns, their data types, everything? Practice it. Don't just say that, okay, I've worked with the on-premises version of this software, so now I know it. You should be aware of how do I do it on Azure platform. So practice it. Moving on to next section, that is Azure security. So again, the coverage, as we discussed earlier, has been detailed here. So it all starts with Azure Active Directory or Azure AAD or simply AAD, Azure Active Directory. For all its authentication authorization services, then multi-factor authentication, how do I implement that? How do I use AD services for identity and access management? How do I use AD services for managed identity? How do I use AD services for getting the access to key vaults? Everything. Then secure cloud solutions. So that includes app configuration, secrets management, which actually comes with Azure Key Vault service, then secure storage, etc. So it's all about identity and access management also here as well. And then the API management and its policies, because for API management, basically it's a different arena altogether. AD serves API management as well, but the control is the logical control is with API management tool itself. So how exactly the authentication authorization will work, it is decided by APIM. That's what you have to go through. Next is monitoring, troubleshooting, optimizing Azure solutions. So precisely here, there are multiple things. It starts with Azure App Insights, then moving on to the auto scaling rules. Like you have to monitor the usage of the resources. And probably if you feel that if the usage is continuously above 80% of the available resources, I probably want to scale up or scale out. So you have to put some monitors, checks for that. And then based on that, you have to create the auto scaling policies. Then another thought you have to give for improvising your application performance by integrating the frequently accessed data being always available with some caching solutions like Azure Cache for Redis. And then if you're looking for real-time communication with APIs, two-way communication, basically, you can always go for Azure Signal R service also. Then along with that, the Azure Content Delivery Network feature also is very, very important, right? Precisely if you're working with the web applications or mobile applications. especially the hybrid mobile applications. And then the monitoring logging tools, as I said, Azure App Insights is the core, which is driven by some tools like Azure Monitor, Log Analytics, etc. And then you have to also practically learn how do I instrument my solution for monitoring and logging? How do I actually create the logs? And how do I build the dashboards for providing all the monitoring inputs recorded within the logs, right? Next section is connect to and consume Azure services and third-party services. So precisely here, your focus will be on logic apps, API management once again, event-driven solutions like Event Grid, Event Hub, Service Bus, then IoT Hub, in case if you are having some IoT scenarios also. Okay. And then the last section is Azure DevOps. So basic requirements like how do I work with Git repositories, Azure repositories, Azure DevOps as a tool, right? And then how do I do the automation for build? So again, CI/CD and the related things. How do I use Azure artifacts for this, right? And then dependency management. How do I create and publish packages, consuming packages from different languages, right? And then managing the artifact versioning. So these are the areas which you will be focusing on. So one by one, you have to approach one section at a time, and within that section, the subsection. Is it clear to all?
Yes, Saket.
So once again, the best resources that are available for studying for the exam include official Microsoft Learning paths, including Microsoft official curriculum, learning.microsoft.com, learn.microsoft.com, I'm sorry, LinkedIn Learning. These are all Microsoft solutions, right? Or Microsoft Learning paths. Then the Microsoft documentation, Azure documentation, practice tests. Then, as I said, online courses and platforms. They could be free, they could be paid ones. There are offline courses conducted by the organizations like ours, Optimistic Infosystems. Then joining the community forums and the various study groups. And on the top of all of this, even if you are 100% confident, always make sure that you have enough hands-on experience on each of the skill being measured, without which there will be no use of clearing the exam as well. Once you put that in your resume and you appear for some interview, it could be client interview or it could be actually the job interview. The interviewer will set their expectations high. Okay, you are certified. So let me know this thing. Let me know that thing. If you are certified, you should be able to answer it. And with practical hands-on experience, it will be easy to answer any kind of questions on that category, on that level. Whereas only theoretical aspect ultimately will lead you to answer something which creates more questions, and those further questions might confuse you. Make sense? Everyone agrees? Okay, so here is the list of some of the most useful books available. Navjot, again, if you can just ping these in the chat box.
Surely, Saket, surely.
These are some of the blogs and websites. I would recommend first, third, fourth, because these are official ones from Microsoft. They are most up-to-date ones. The moment the service change, they update the content as well here, so that there is no gap. Make sense? Even if I do some kind of blogging, my content may not be 100% real time with respect to what is there on the Azure as of now. Because it is a Microsoft which will come to know about the changes first before anyone. The information reaches me, I study that, and then I update my blog. That will take some time. Does that make sense or not? Ajit, please ping this also.
Surely, Saket.
Next is online resources available. So there are some popular platforms. Pluralsight, Udemy. Cost-wise, Udemy is little cheaper compared to that of Pluralsight, but the quality of content is quite good on both of them. Don't go just by the cost, because sometimes you need the very simple input also in layman language, which Udemy is the best in. They do have courses right from the very basic courses to very high level advanced courses as well. Right? I'm not marketing for them. I'm just sharing my experience. But this need not be shared. Probably everyone knows about it. So let's talk something about mock exams and practice tests, wherein we need to understand the importance of mock exams and practice tests. So here I have a question. A cricketer like Virat Kohli, do you think he needs the regular practice? He already knows what he is into. He knows how to play. He knows how to swing the bat so that he can score the runs, how to find the gaps, how to hit six, how to hit four, how to score quick singles or doubles. Then during fielding, how to grab the ball, how to field the ball, the ground fielding, how to catch the ball, right? How to throw the ball, where to throw the ball, wicket keeper or bowler's end, how to back up someone if someone else is throwing, right? All the basics he probably knows, still he does regular practice. Why do you think so? Not only net practice, which is for batting or bowling, he does the drills for fielding, he does the drills for catching, he does the drills for almost every single area of cricket. Why? Virat Kohli is modern day cricketer. This has been done by Sachin also. Probably even now when he actually plays some charity cricket or something, he still gets into those drills. After playing for so long and representing country at top level and performing at the top level for so many years, getting retired at the top level, still he does practice. Why? So that there are no gaps left, right? The body is adopted for everything. Bowlers also find out new tricks. So how to counter that? People often do practice a specific shot also, especially if it is a batter. If it's about bowler, if it is about bowler also keeps on practicing the things just to find out how to beat the batsman. If a batsman has developed variety of shots, like A.B. de Villiers or let's say Surya Kumar, right? It's difficult bowling against these kind of people, right? You can't predict what kind of shot they will play. So you have to keep on innovating, right? Line, length, everything you have to make perfect. So that is the same importance that you have for mock exams and practice tests. You might be very good, but still there might be some gaps which you might want to fill. To fill those gaps, you have to find the gaps. Yes or no? How do you find the gaps? By attempting the exam. But attempting the real exam involves cost, correct? And it's not small, 4,800 rupees every time when you attempt. It's a big amount. Yes or no? So better is basically to go with mock exams, practice tests, etc., which allows you to assess your exam readiness, find or identify knowledge gaps. It also helps you enhance your time management skills, understand the question patterns, what kind of questions you can expect. May not be same questions, but patterns you can understand so that your mindset can be developed in order to understand those questions quickly without wasting too much of time, right? What to read, where to read. You need not read the entire question, right? Then reinforce your learning for the gaps. Build the exam strategy of your own. How do I approach? Which question should I attempt first? Which category should I attempt first? Everything you will come to know with the help of mock exams and practice tests. And ultimately that boosts your confidence and sets your mindset right. So that chances of success will be much more higher. So here is the answer for one of the questions. Someone asked like where I can find the mock exams and practice tests. These are some of the providers. Microsoft Learning is the top one. Most reliable one is Microsoft Learning. And then there are others also. MeasureUp, WizLabs, Udemy, Pre-Code even Coursera also provides some practice tests. But usually those kind of platforms, require the subscriptions. First of all, you need to buy the course. You need to attend that course online in virtual mode, practice, and then attempt those tests. But still, it's a good thing, right? Navjot, kindly ping this also in the chat.
Sure, Saket.
So how do we analyze the results of the mock exams and practice tests? Each mock exam will tell you which questions you gave wrong answers for, which questions you gave right answers for. Attempting them 2 to 3 times will give you the LCM HCF of it. There will be some common questions where you are making mistake all the time. Those are your weak areas. For those weak areas, revisit the study material. Seek additional resources, maybe forums, groups, or maybe your mentors or some trainer you are connected to. Then get more hands-on practice on those areas. Retake the practice exam once again. And then once again, the cycle starts. So once again, you get satisfied. You can actually think of going for the final exam. Book your slot, attempt. So during this time itself, the time management and forming your exam strategies will be possible, right? 150 minutes is the duration being provided to you to attempt those questions, right? So you can set a target of completing the exam probably in 120 minutes itself, so that 30 minutes you get for review before you actually submit your exam. Does that make sense or not? That will improvise your speed as well. Reading questions and attempting them. The entire speed will get increased with that if you set a target. Just like a sprinter. Yes or no? So this is a cycle which you have to repeat until and unless you are 100% satisfied that, okay, I'm ready. Okay. So moving on to the last section of this presentation. How do I prepare for the exam day? This is a simple thing which we do follow for any exam. And for these kind of exams, basically on the exam day, just attempt the practice exam for one last time. Make sure you score good in that. Probably your try should be to score 100%, means 1000 out of 1000 in the practice exam. That automatically boosts your morale so that you can head straight to exam center, or I mean, you can log into the proctored exam also online with fresh mindset, with positive mindset, right? And then how to manage time during the exam. Again, there is no rocket science. This is the typical age old thing only. How to manage the time. So pace yourself. You might have already done this during the practice exams. So it is just about repeating the same thing in the main exam as well, the actual exam as well. So usually your testing tool also comes with mark or flag option, which allows you to jump to that particular question at any moment of time pretty quickly, where you have doubt or which you have probably left, you have not attempted. You need more time on thinking. So you can always mark and flag and then move ahead. And then you can get a list of all such questions and then revisit all of them. If you are 100% sure about the answer, attempt it and submit. Make sense? So any questions here before we go with a small quiz over here? No questions? No worries. Let's get into the small quiz. Just 5 questions I've kept today. Navjot, you can drive this. I'll just keep on changing the slides from my end. Over to you, Navjot. Here is the first question. You can go ahead.
Sure, I guess everyone can see this on the slide. You can put it on chat or you can unmute yourself and whatsoever is the correct option, you can just shout out on that. What is the primary programming language used for Azure functions?
So just one thing, the questions are not exactly from within the presentation we had seen today. These are few technical questions just to get some, the actual exam flavor. And simple questions only I have put over here to start with, kind of scoring questions. Okay, so go ahead.
So the point is, I guess last week when we did the webinar on AZ 900, which is the basic certification. So therein the questions could be like, what are Azure functions? Like basic questions, right? And there could be options. But at this level, they would be asking a level notch higher than this. Something like these set of questions. So most have answered B, C#.
That's right. It's C#. That is the default or primary programming language. But then all of them are supported. So as I said, there could be questions where the answers could be like all are correct. Most relevant one you have to choose. So you can write Azure function in Java, you can write in Python, you can write in JavaScript Node.js, but the primary or default language is C#. Understood?
Let's move to the next question, Saket.
Yes. Here is the next one.
Which Azure service is used for hosting web applications and APIs?
Easy one.
So we have got most of the answers as B, as your app service.
That's right. That's right. That's where you host your web applications and web APIs. Earlier, we used to have API apps separately, but they have merged that into app service itself now. Here is the next one, Navjot.
What is the purpose of Azure DevOps? It's an interesting question, yeah. Most of the answers are answer C, option C.
Correct. That's right. So CI/CD should be the first thing coming to mind, and that itself answers it to be C, right? Here is the next one.
Which Azure service provides a fully managed database service for relational data? It's B, I believe. When it comes to relational data, it is always SQL database, right?
Yeah. So if I add two more options here, option E, Azure database for MySQL and Azure database for PostgreSQL, what would be the answers? In that case, it will be B, E, and F. Because SQL, PostgreSQL, and MySQL all are fully managed database services for relational data. Cosmos DB would be for
Can you repeat
NoSQL.
this option? Can you repeat this twist
Yeah.
in the
So
question?
the next option that we have, option E, is Azure database for MySQL, and option F is Azure database for PostgreSQL. So SQL database, Azure database for MySQL, and Azure database for PostgreSQL all are fully managed database services for relational data. Cosmos DB is the fully managed database service for NoSQL data. Got it? I hope that's clear.
We have a query in the chat window,
Yeah.
MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL, which is most relevant? Is that the question, Tarun?
All three are correct. It will be a multiple answer question, not just multiple choice. All three need to be selected. Got it?
All right. Next move. Let's
Yeah.
move to the
Again,
next.
there could be a twist there, like which is default one. In that case, SQL database would be the most relevant. Got it?
What is the purpose of Azure functions? Let's see what are the options. People have answered A, someone has answered C.
The correct one is A. And then that platform can be used to build microservices architecture also. The most relevant one is A. So that is it. If you have any further questions, you have 5 minutes.
You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat window. Either way, please. All right, then I believe we don't have any more questions. And towards the end, I would like to share, there is a small feedback link that we have shared in the chat window. So it would be really helpful if you can fill and put your feedback. That will help us improve next time. And I thanks a lot, Saket, for this wonderful session. It was quite interactive, and I hope people have got really at least a stepping start to their journey towards the Microsoft Azure certification AZ204. And I thanks the entire audience for being so participative and so inquisitive. The entire recording of this would be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and the link would be shared with you. And people who have nominated via their learning teams and their training managers, so that entire report would be shared with them that who have attended or not. So that's it, guys. Thanks a lot. See you again in the next session and next series of this webinar. We look forward, and we wish you best in your certification journey. Thanks, Saket. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you
Please
all.
do fill the feedback form. It would be really helpful for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saket. Thank you, Navjot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.